Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
Welcome to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. If you love old movies, Hollywood history, or the golden age of filmmaking, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast that talks about amazing stories of Tinseltown from another era. Hear fascinating conversations with writer-producer Steve Cubine, who quite literally lives just beneath the Hollywood sign, and actress-writer Nan McNamara. Now your hosts, Steve and Nan.
Welcome, everybody. Steve, since before we started this podcast.
A year ago.
A year,
my gosh.
This woman that we're going to be talking about today is somebody that you and I have both been excited about for a lot of our lives.
Yes,
right?
we have.
Right. And when we were preparing for this particular episode, it got me thinking about the way that we prepare and how listeners might be interested in hearing that.
Our research,
our research. And if you've never looked at it, if you're listening to this on your earbuds or if you're watching on YouTube, in the show notes at the very bottom, you will see all the sources that we use for our research.
Exactly. Because we go to great length to really dig deep on these episodes. You know, we go to the Academy Library quite a bit. We do a lot of searching there. So it's really fun, the different avenues we use to find great information for you.
And now we have access to a lot of film clips of the actual people being interviewed, whether they've passed or not. So we can actually get the words right out of their mouth. So if you've ever wondered, check out our sources.
Yes. You mentioned our subject today, who's going to be our star of the month. And I was just a couple of nights ago, I was flipping around on TV and I ran across the great old movie As Young as You Feel, which, you know, it's a really fun comedy with Monty Woolley, and it's a great cast. Monty Woolley and
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe has a small part in it. It's one of her early roles, and Gene Peters, who everyone knows I love, David Wayne. But a real standout in this movie was Thelma Ritter. It was a small part. It was sort of an insignificant part, but every line was delivered with such comic genius that you couldn't take your eyes off of her.
Right. And I think we both noticed that even as kids watching older movies. I didn't know who Thelma Ritter was, but at the time I remember thinking, oh, when that lady's in a movie, it's really fun and she's really funny, and wouldn't she be fun to have as your aunt?
I know. And she had that great gravelly voice and that New York accent, and she was like 4'11". She was this little diminutive little thing, but
I think they list her as 5'1" on IMDb.
Oh.
but 4'11".
She was little. She was
teeny.
A little thing, but she was so funny. She's just comic gold. I mean, everything she does is just genius. And so I'm so excited that she's our star of the month, Thelma Ritter.
Me too. Thelma Ritter was born in Brooklyn in 1902. Her father was a bookkeeper. Her mother was a homemaker. And she got that acting bug early in life. She appeared in school plays and in stock companies. And at the age of 11, and what would you give to see this performance? She played Puck in a drama club's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Could you imagine?
She would be a great Puck.
I know, with that little New York accent.
Oh my gosh, it would be fabulous.
Puck from the Bronx.
Right. Well, after graduating from high school, she studied drama at the renowned American Academy of Dramatic Arts, class of 1922. And then she started working in theater companies in New York and New England.
And now at 25, she married fellow actor Joseph Moran. You know, this acting duo, they struggled trying to get that big break. You know, they did everything from radio to jingle contest to vaudeville, anything to make ends meet. But, you know, they struggled like most actors do at the beginning. But by the mid-1930s, Moran, he sort of gave up and he became an agent for actors and later an advertising executive for Young and Rubicam. Ritter, though, continued as an actress, although not a lot of success on Broadway, although she did appear in a couple of plays, not very successful ones. I know she appeared in The Shelf, 1926, and then In Times Square, 1931. When she and Moran had their two children,
Monica and Joe,
she took a break from acting and just dedicated herself to her family.
We've seen that with a lot of actresses.
We're talking about Marjorie Reynolds took a break for her daughter.
Took a break for her family, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
She finally gets a little bit of a break when family friend, writer-director George Seaton, who is about to start directing a movie called Miracle on 34th Street, 1947 for 20th Century Fox. Now, he offers Ritter a small role, but it's a pretty important role of the frustrated mother who can't find that toy that Kris Kringle promised her son. And it sort of is the crux of the film.
Oh,
where
totally.
Kris Kringle tells her where to go get the toy.
The competing department store.
Yeah, the competing department store. So this brief appearance, she was 45 years old.
For her screen debut.
For her screen debut, she catches the attention of Fox studio chief Darryl F. Zanuck, and this is kind of where things begin. So any actors out there, there's always hope.
I know. I love the late bloomers that ended up having such brilliant careers.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she did. You're absolutely right. Darryl Zanuck got wind of her and really liked her, and he gave her a small but sort of pivotal role in James Stewart's movie called Northside 777 in 1948, which also starred Richard Conte and Helen Walker, two people we have talked about on the podcast before.
Right.
So.
They've each had their own episodes if you want to check those out.
Check those episodes out. However, it was her next film at Fox, which really helped cultivate the sassy, sarcastic, no-nonsense character that would be her trademark. And that was in Joseph L. Mankiewicz's drama, A Letter to Three Wives in 1949, where Ritter played Sadie, the best friend of Linda Darnell's mother, played by Connie Gilchrist. She managed to steal every single scene she was in, and a star was born.
Yes, and now she's 47. So, I mean, that's amazing. And then very quickly after that, she's cast in supporting roles in several more films. You say the best of them being the comedy Father Was a Fullback. Now, I have not seen that. 1949.
It's fun.
She plays the saucy housekeeper to Fred McMurray and Maureen O'Hara.
Yes, and she's the no-nonsense one. She's the truth teller. She's the only one that can speak her mind and get away with it.
Yes, yes.
And it's great.
Yeah.
A really fun movie.
Right.
Well, in 1950, Mankiewicz was so impressed with her in A Letter to the Three Wives, he gave her probably one of the greatest roles of her career. And of course, I'm talking about All About Eve, 1950, where Ritter portrayed Birdie, the dresser/assistant/companion to Broadway star Margo Channing, of course, played by the brilliant Bette Davis.
And I would say also the truth sayer to everyone.
My favorite part of the movie is she is the only person that can tell Margo Channing the truth and get away with it.
Yes.
And she's also the only one who doesn't see through Eve Harrington's BS when she comes on the scene.
Right.
And she has the great line when Eve tells her sob story about her past and her dead soldier husband and all of that. And then Thelma Ritter just looks up and she says, "What a story. Everything but the bloodhounds snapping at her rear end."
And it's kind of, when she says it, at least the first time you see the film, you just go, yeah, you're right. Like, that sounds absolutely crazy.
I know. I love that. I mean, she was just phenomenal. And of course, for her role in All About Eve, she was nominated for her first Academy Award as Best Supporting Actress.
Right.
But unfortunately, she lost. And she also lost the Golden Globe to Josephine Hull in Harvey. But what it did for her is it made her one of the most sought-after character actresses, hands down.
Right. She followed up the success in All About Eve with a number of well-received films. She's so funny as John Lunn's mother, who pretends to be his cook to impress his new socialite wife, Jean Tierney, in The Mating Season, 1951.
Great movie.
Yep, that one also garners her a second Best Supporting Actress Academy Award nomination and another Golden Globe. And she lost both awards to Kim Hunter in A Streetcar Named Desire.
Well, that one I can understand.
Yeah.
Kim Hunter was so good.
Yes, yes.
Well, one of my favorites, and I just rewatched it recently, was The Model and the Marriage Broker, 1951. She just sparkles. She plays this mischievous matchmaker.
Yes.
And, her whole job and her joy in life is matching people up. And she
Right.
finally meets her match, pardon the pun, with Gene Crane and Scott Brady. And it's just delightful, and she's wonderful. And it's, even though Gene Crane and Scott Brady get top billing, it is her movie 1000% all the way.
She plays the caring but no-nonsense nurse to Susan Hayward in With a Song in My Heart, 1952. We're on a roll here because this earns her a third Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, but Gloria Graham in The Bad and the Beautiful.
And you know how I feel
wins.
about that win.
Yes.
Not deserved.
It wasn't, well, we love Gloria
We
Graham.
love Gloria Graham.
But not for that picture.
I know, it was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
that great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get emails, I'm sure.
She also plays a character based on Molly Brown in the drama Titanic, 1953, with Barbara Stanwyck and Clifton Webb. You know, I've been trying to think as we were talking about Thelma and thinking about her this past week, if there was a contemporary actress that reminds you of her.
Oh,
and I'm thinking of
good question.
Kathy Bates a little bit.
A little bit,
In her early career, because I'm thinking of Titanic and how she played that
kind of
character
with
as
lots
well,
of
the Molly Brown character.
That gusto and
yeah,
that,
kind of brass.
Can-do spirit.
Yeah,
And, yes.
But we should give that more thought. And if listeners, you had a thought.
That question for the listeners. Who is the modern day Thelma Ritter?
Yeah, who's the modern day Thelma Ritter?
Email us. That's a great question.
Anyway, we digress.
Well, Ritter was very well known by now for her comic gifts, and she
Right.
was genius as a comedian. But her next film, Pickup on South Street, 1953, really showed off her deep dramatic talents.
Yes.
As Mo Williams, the street grifter and police informant of Lower Manhattan, she helps petty thieves Richard Widmark and Gene Peters clear their names and break up a communist spy ring.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
I know. And you know, her performance is it's nuanced, it's gripping, it's emotional, it's funny. And that final scene is maybe one of the most heartbreaking scenes in any movie.
It's a little bit of everything. Backaches and headaches. I can't sleep nights. It's so hard to get up in the morning and get dressed and walk the streets, climb the stairs. I go right on doing it. Well, what am I going to do, knock it? I have to go on making a living so I can die. But even a fancy funeral ain't worth waiting for if I've got to do business with crumbs like you. And I know what you're after.
What do you know?
I know you commies are looking for some film that don't belong to you.
You just talked yourself into an early grave. What else do you know?
What do I know about commies? Nothing. I know one thing. I just don't like them. So I don't get to have the fancy funeral after all. Look, mister, I'm so tired. You'd be doing me a big favor if you'd blow my head off.
It really should be studied by acting students everywhere.
She plays these characters that, as we've described her, they're brash, but you love her at the same time, and it's such a wonderful combination. We just rewatched that film last night, and
so good.
Yeah, she's just
And
fantastic.
there's such vulnerability. As brassy as she is, she's got this wonderful vulnerability that when it comes out, it will rip your heart out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right, but we're seeing a pattern here.
I know, another Oscar nomination for her, but
Yes.
this time she was beaten by Donna Reed in From Here to Eternity. Which, that's a tough call, because
I
Donna
know.
Reed was so good in
Yeah,
that movie.
she was.
Yeah.
And she was playing outside of what she was normally known for.
Yeah.
So the following year, she makes a huge splash in one of my favorite films, Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece, Rear Window, 1954, with, of course, James Stewart and Grace Kelly. She plays the wisecracking nurse, Stella. And she becomes that amateur detective along with Grace Kelly and
Yes.
Jimmy Stewart.
So great.
And she just, once again, it's a similar character, but she finds a different way to play it. And each one of these characters that she plays is so distinct and separate from each other.
Yeah, they really are. She had a knack for that.
Now, this one, surprisingly, she does not get nominated for an Academy
Now, that's
Award.
a real shocker and a real oversight, because she is so good in Rear Window.
Yeah, she really is. Before we continue with Thelma Ritter's wonderful career, I think it's time for this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz.
And the pop quiz question is, over the course of her career, Thelma Ritter was nominated for 6 Academy Awards. And how many did she win? 0. How was that even possible? But the question is, who is the actor and actress who have been Oscar nominated the most without a single win?
Oh, I know this one.
Ooh, it's a good one.
All right, we'll be back with the answer and more about the glorious Thelma Ritter after this.
All right, Stephen Ann will be right back, but first another stop on the Hollywood tour. Shirley Temple, born in 1928, was the enchanting singing and dancing child star who achieved unbelievable success. With her glowing blonde curls, she saved a Hollywood studio and helped yank America from the throes of the Great Depression. She was making $1,250 a week at age 6. That was huge money. The incandescent Temple was a veteran of 46 feature films and one-reelers before she even turned 13. She was a huge star in a pint-sized package, and one of the benefits of that was all the mail she received at the studio. Get this, an average of 16,000 letters a month. But it gets even better. On one of her birthdays, fans went crazy sending her gifts. After they totaled them all up, people had sent Temple more than 167,000 presents. The studio and Temple's family came up with a genius idea. They donated all those gifts to charity in Temple's name. Talk about an everybody wins idea, huh? And now back to Steve and Ann from Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we get further into the life and career of our star of the month, Thelma Ritter, I wanted to give a shout out to our listener of the week. And this week, we are honoring Alicia Fall Lutman from West Palm Beach, Florida. She's a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. I'm not going to lie. And she's lovely, and I love her. And she's been so supportive of us and this podcast. So, Alicia, surprise, you're the listener of the week.
Thank you, Alicia. Jumping back into Thelma Ritter's career, as many actors did in the mid-50s with the starting of television, she appears on a number of programs, including Lux Video Theater, Goodyear Playhouse, and the Philco Television Playhouse. She was nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her portrayal of the mother of the bride in Goodyear Playhouse's production of A Catered Affair.
I'd love to see that production because I love the movie so much with Bette Davis and Ernest Borgnine. I would love to see her in that role.
I wonder if it's on Internet Archive.
I know.
We should look.
Check it out. She remained busy with films also. It wasn't just TV in the 50s. She did appear in the romantic comedy Daddy Longlegs in 1955 with the great Fred Astaire and Leslie Caron, and the war drama The Proud and the Profane of 1956, which starred William Holden and Deborah Carr.
Right. In 1958, Ritter fulfilled her lifelong dream of appearing in a big, splashy Broadway musical. Who knew that was her dream? I know she's a New York girl, but of course she wants to be on Broadway.
Well, it's funny because she had those plays that were not successful early in her career.
Yes.
I wonder if it always stayed with her.
I bet it did.
I want to be a successful Broadway actress.
And I love that this particular musical is what she ended up in. It was called New Girl in Town, but it's based on Eugene O'Neill's 1921 play, Anna Christie, and it starred none other than Gwen Verdon, fresh off Damn Yankees. She plays Chris, a former prostitute sick with tuberculosis who has come home to die. Thelma Ritter played Marthy, the drunken common-law wife of Chris's father. The play was a big hit, nominated for multiple Tony Awards, including Best Musical. Ritter was also nominated as Best Actress in a Musical. Gwen Verdon was nominated for Best Actress in a Musical. And they both won. Our girl finally got her award.
And I love, even though it was a tie, which is so rare, but I love the fact that they tied.
I did too. And this production was choreographed by the great Bob Fosse.
Yes.
And it ran for 431 performances.
So Thelma got her wish.
She got her Tony Award.
Well, after her Broadway triumph, she returned to films. She appeared in a great comedy drama called A Hole in the Head, 1959.
Oh, I love that.
Which is a great movie. It's Frank Sinatra and Edward G. Robinson and the great Eleanor Parker, who we are going to do an episode on in the future. So look out for that. But I think she's at her comic best in the next movie, Pillow Talk, 1959.
Great film.
It's that frothy sex comedy which starred Doris Day and Rock Hudson, and she plays Alma, Doris Day's truth-telling maid, who always seemed to be a little drunk or maybe a little hungover.
And I love that twist to it. Again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying. She finds a different way to play this character.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, she steals every scene she is in.
Right.
And for the 5th time, she's Oscar nominated. This time she loses to Shelley Winters in The Diary of Anne Frank.
All right.
Which that's a tough tough one.
That is a tough one. Yeah. Now, in the 60s, she is not in as many films, but the quality of the films that she appears in is just top notch. She's in John Huston's The Misfits, 1961. She plays Isabel, Marilyn Monroe's landlady and friend who offers her some motherly protection.
Gosh, she's good in that movie.
Yeah.
Everybody's Montgomery Clift. Everybody's good in that.
Such a great film.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as she's wonderful as Burt Lancaster's strong-willed, loving mother in Birdman of Alcatraz, 1962, directed by John Frankenheimer.
Again, what a performance.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the Academy thought so too. It earned her 6th Academy Award nomination, but guess what? She didn't win.
I know. It just boggles my mind
It does me
that
too.
Thelma Ritter never won an Oscar. Well, it boggles my mind that Roz Russell never won an Oscar or Irene Dunn never. It's so many.
You know what? If they were all still alive, they would be giving them honorary Oscars.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Thelma, she kind of shares the distinction with Deborah Kerr and Amy Adams. They were also 6-time nominees without ever winning an Oscar.
Okay.
So.
And she lost out to Patty Duke in The Miracle Worker at that time.
Ooh, another one.
That's a really tough one.
Tough call.
Yep.
And you know who else was nominated that year was Mary Badham for To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh.
So that was a tough category that year.
Very tough year, yeah. All right. So she appears in 1962 in the star-studded Western How the West Was Won. She plays now this is a genre I would not have expected to see her in, right?
She's so good in this movie.
She's a comical husband hunter who befriends Debbie Reynolds, which is just, delightful.
So delicious. Yeah. And she also appeared in many lighthearted comedies during this era. The best, I think, was Move Over, Darling, which was a funny remake of My Favorite Wife from back in 1940. But this time it stars Doris Day and James Garner and Polly Bergen. And she's also in Boeing in 1965 with Tony Curtis and Jerry Lewis. And she plays Tony Curtis's long-suffering housekeeper. And for this part, she was nominated for a Golden Globe as Best Supporting Actress.
She made her final film appearance in What's So Bad About Feeling Good, 1968, with George Peppard and Mary Tyler Moore.
And I love the fact that her final film, the one you just mentioned, it was also directed by George Seaton, who cast her in her very first movie. So it was full circle.
Yeah, a full circle moment.
Yeah.
And thinking about her, I wondered about, I know she was dedicated to her family and her children, but I also think part of the reason why she became successful later is that she grew into these parts that she was playing. I'm sure there are many characters we could name in their 20s that have that acerbic, edgy kind of New York thing, but she found at the right age, it just sort of all came together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. Just magical. The right actress at the right time, right place.
Yes, yes.
Great. All right. As we kind of wind down Thelma Ritter's career, I'm just curious for my own sake, Nan.
Yes.
What's your favorite Thelma Ritter movie and why?
It's a toss-up between All About Eve
Yes.
and Rear Window, but I'm going to go for Rear Window ultimately because the film is really the three of them.
Yes.
It's Grace Kelly, James Stewart, and Thelma Ritter. I love their relationship.
And Raymond Burr a little bit.
A little bit with Raymond Burr, yes. I love the three of them together. I love how she really sticks out as a force between, those two characters.
Yes.
And it's really memorable, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Great choices. And I also love Rear Window. It's such a great movie. And I love how she's such a no-nonsense lady.
Yes.
But yet she buys into James Stewart's conspiracy theory.
Oh, totally.
1,000%. And she's ready to go and climb fire escapes and break into apartments.
Yes, which is a way better way of saying what I was trying to say, yeah. But I agree with you. She has this wonder. She goes with this conspiracy theory, and you wouldn't think she would. The character you wouldn't
think she'd be
would.
so no-nonsense. She'd be like, that's crazy.
Stupid. Yeah.
Take your medicine. Yeah.
All right. What about you? What's your favorite?
For comedy, I have to go with Pillow Talk.
Yeah.
She's so genius.
She is.
It's hard to play drunk, and she plays it so beautifully and so comically.
Yes.
And she's just funny. I mean, she makes me laugh so hard in Pillow Talk. But my favorite of all is probably, and I talked about this a little bit, it's Pick Up on South Street.
Yeah.
Just to see the more dramatic side to her and just how powerful and emotional that performance is.
Yes.
Like that has stayed with me for decades, that performance.
So if I asked you, what are the top 3 films that people should watch of Thelma Ritter's, you would say Pick Up on South Street.
For me, it would be Pick Up on South Street, All About Eve, 1,000%.
Yes.
and probably Rear Window.
Yeah.
Those are probably the three, I think, most important films she made.
Right.
But then again, it's all subjective.
It is. It is. Well, we'd love to hear any of your choices out there, listeners. She did die of a heart attack in New York City in 1969, just 9 days before her 67th birthday.
Yeah, I think it was February the 5th, 1969. Yeah. What a legacy she leaves behind. What a beautiful, beautiful legacy of film work that we still get to enjoy. And I'm just so glad that we do.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's remind listeners of this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz.
Well, the question was, which actor and which actress have been Oscar nominated the most without ever winning?
All right. Glenn Close.
Yeah.
Peter O'Toole.
Yes, you're on
Yes.
fire today. Yes, it is Glenn Close and Peter O'Toole, although Peter O'Toole did at least receive an honorary Oscar in 2002.
He did.
Glenn Close is still waiting for some Oscar love.
And she so should have won for The Wife.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I was so upset that year. She
I
just
know.
so clearly should have won.
But if you really want to feel badly for somebody, feel badly for Greg P. Russell. The name may not be familiar to you guys out there, but he has been Oscar nominated 17 times as a sound mixer. He did such movies as Armageddon and The Rock, Pearl Harbor, Skyfall. Yet, after 17 nominations, he has yet to win. So that's who we should really feel bad for.
I agree. I wonder if he shows up every time.
I know. Are there 17 tuxedos in his garage or his closet somewhere?
Oh, Greg, I hope you win one of these days. This has been delightful to get to talk about dear Thelma.
Oh, I love it. I love her.
We appreciate you guys spending this time with us, and we would love it if you would give us a 5-star review. And if you would follow us on social media, our handle is @FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign. You can watch the podcast on YouTube, where you'll see photographs, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
And we love hearing from you, so keep those emails coming, and let us know who you think is the modern day Thelma Ritter. We'd love to get your ideas on that.
Yeah.
You can email us at info@FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com.
That's this week's view.
From Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
You've been listening to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign with Steve Cubine and Ann McNamara, the podcast that celebrates amazing stories of Tinseltown from its golden era. Join us next week for another episode and learn something else about Hollywood you probably never knew. Take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, and tell your friends about us too. It'll help grow the podcast. Visit Steve's website at FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com. The executive producers are Steve Cubine and Nan McNamara. Executive producer and post-production supervisor Lindsay Schnebley. Associate producer and researcher John Price Ritchie. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like The Box of Oddities and The Shallow End with Schnebley and Toth. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. That's a wrap.